Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello everyone, my name is Jonathan and welcome to the Season 2 finale recap video. This season was crazy, with alliances being made and broken almost every round, and in fact, over the course of the season, there were 35 unique alliances, with every player being in at least one of them. Among the early alliances that formed during the first of the two meet and greets were the Nerdland Yeah Alliance, consisting of Anne, Zach, and Spencer; NOTA, which stood for Not Overly Terrible Alliance, consisting of Anne, Seb, and Bill, but the three of them were not super invested in this alliance, and it more formed out of coincidence than anything else. There was also the Till Final 9 Alliance, otherwise known as the Five, consisting of Fritz, Zach, Spencer, Anne, and Sha'anan, whose pictures you should see on the screen right about now. Please remember that there were 35 alliances formed throughout the season, and I don't have the time or the patience to mention and gather screenshots for all of them, so at the end of the video, I'll just show a list of the alliances this season that I had access to. Thanks for your consideration. Round 1 kicked off, not with an HOH comp, but with another chance for contestants to meet each other and form some more alliances, and form alliances they did. Among them, the Cool Kids Club, which consisted of Anne, Bill, Simon, Josh, and Ariel. Cool NOTA, consisting of Anne and Bill, and the Eagles, consisting of Bill and Sha'anan. You may have noticed a trend with these alliances, and you'd think that having this many alliances this early on would mean that you'd feel really safe, right? Yeah, not so much. Anne was rapidly losing trust in the Five, primarily due to their philosophy that the group had to break apart at the final 9. Anyway, at the first HOH competition, David, a consensus target for many of the players due to his comp wins in Season 1, continued to prove why he is one of the strongest comp beasts the game has ever seen, winning the challenge with relative ease. After the comp, the scrambling for safety began, and Simon got a brilliant idea. He would simply invite David into the Cool Kids Club, but keep him in the dark using a separate group chat. With that, the original Cool Kids Club became the Cool Kids Club Core, and a new chat was formed for the new club, consisting of David, Rita, whom Anne brought in as an extra number, as well as the OG Club. The new club was able to convince David to nominate Zach and Spencer, and he did just that, nominating the two of them and putting the Five, which I honestly thought would dominate the season, in danger right off the bat. At the Slither.io Power of Veto competition, Zach laid waste to everyone else, winning the Power of Veto and saving himself from the block. The club now had to choose a new nominee, and Anne had one person in mind. Over the course of the 3 hours since the start of the strategy session that day, Sha'anan had messaged Anne asking to join an alliance with her and Rita, as well as confirming to her that he knew about NOTA. The reason he knew? His number one ally, Bill. The end result, because we still had to name a replacement nominee, was Anne going into a panic mode, trying to convince the club to put Sha'anan up for eviction and vote him out. Unfortunately for her, it failed, as both Bill and Ariel didn't want their friend and ally on the block this early in the season. Anne yielded, and Fritz, due to him being the only other person in the game that the club was willing to nominate, was placed firmly on the block. The club had the numbers to eliminate either Spencer or Fritz, and something finally went Anne's way, when she convinced the club to evict Fritz, after lying to them and saying Fritz was sort of a huge threat and kind of a ringleader, which, quite honestly, couldn't have been further from the truth. But Anne was willing to play as hard as she needed to in order to protect her Nerdland Yeah alliance. In the end, Fritz was evicted in an 8-2 vote. After the chaos that was round 1, you would think round 2 would be a little bit calmer, right? Wrong. Round 2's HOH was a Samantra's comp, where whoever submitted the highest score in a certain amount of time would win. After I reminded people that Rita won this comp last season, Anne flew into a tizzy and started to attempt to do some damage control, telling Rita that before she made any alliances to check with her, because she didn't want Rita to be manipulated. Ironic, considering that is exactly what Anne was trying to do throughout both last and this season. Anne then nearly made a grave error, assuming Rita would win the challenge, and saying that it will likely be herself that will decide who goes on the block, before swiftly correcting it to say the two of them. Due to her copious amount of alliances, Anne decided to make a chart, which, as you can see, shows her in alliances with all but one person, that person, of course, being Rylan. To my surprise, the winner of the HOH comp was not Rita, but someone else entirely. After a back-and-forth battle, with both players getting scores that were maybe a bit too high, I found out post-season that at least one of them definitely used Inspect Element, so yeah, sorry about that, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things it really made that much of a difference. Ariel won the competition over Zach, taking the second HOH of the season. Throughout the Semantris comp, however, Anne became cockier and more power-hungry, crowning herself an eternal invisible HOH. And with the club in power once again, Anne, once again, tried to target Sha'anan for eviction, but luckily for him, Ariel is his G, and he put the hammer on Anne, refusing to put him up. With Simon suggesting Fritz as the nominee, and me telling him in no uncertain terms what I thought about that move, the club decided to put up Rylan and a pawn, picking Spencer to fulfill that role. Even though they thought their plan was perfectly fine, they decided to make a backup, with Ariel wanting Zach out, due to him accusing Ariel of cheating during the challenge. Anne, of course, continued to push to eliminate Sha'anan, grasping for any excuse to do so. In the end, when Spencer won Power of Veto and saved himself, both sides yielded, and Comp Beast David was put up. In the confusion of who the club wanted to target, Rita decided that they would vote out David, despite him being in their group chat. In the end, by a vote of 8-1, David was evicted. However, just because someone is eliminated, it does not mean the drama is over yet. Through a call with Spencer, Ariel was informed about the 4, or what used to be the 5, now the 4, realizing just how deep Anne's control went. Once he knew, he decided to form a counter-alliance, the 4 Aces, consisting of himself, Sha'anan, Spencer, and Zach, and he revealed to them that Anne was a traitor. Ariel then decided to go into a call with Anne and attempt to confront her on her double dealings, and although both players were very reserved in what was said, there was definitely a major war brewing. Throughout the war going on within the club, they still stuck together, and both they and Noda, remember that alliance, had a target in mind. Throughout the season, there was one person that had formed no significant social bonds with anyone and was kinda just a consensus target, that person being Rylan. But it was in Season 1, and just because it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and acts like a duck, I mean, it's probably a duck, but it might just be a terrible analogy that makes no sense. Why did I put this in my script? Sorry, I'm just gonna break character for a second. Why did I put this in my script? Anyways, following Ariel's conversation with Anne, he decided to throw Sha'anan under, well, not just a bus, but maybe just an entire steamroller, after photoshopping a message to frame him for wanting to target Anne, which, ironically enough, Sha'anan hadn't trusted Anne at all, and he had wanted her out since day one, being the only person to immediately see through her gameplay, just as she saw through his. Regardless, at the HOH competition, Zach managed to deftly bob and weave his way to a victory in Flappy Bird, winning his second challenge of the season. Zach decided to make a fairly easy move when he won HOH, and nominated Rita and house target Rylan, with Rylan being his target through the suggestion of Anne in particular. At the Power of Veto competition, Rita drew up a victory in Drawful, saving herself and forcing Zach to name a replacement nominee. After speaking with Simon and explaining his reasoning, Zach put Simon up as a replacement pawn, leading to a very simple unanimous vote sending Rylan out of the game. In between rounds, and after a small celebration with Noda, Anne further improved her chart, this time adding in threat levels of all other players, with her number 1 threats being Ariel, Bill, and Sha'anan. And Anne believes she could puppeteer the entire rest of the cast. Before we get to this next round, I'd like to just say a huge thank you to Will M for helping me out with this next challenge, and also get some popcorn. This is the craziest round in the history of this game. I loved it. It's chaos. It's incredible. Let's talk about it. At the start of the next round, the HOH comp... Weird.
During the Invisible HOH, the round began fairly normally. I introduced a comp, the players participated, and 30 seconds after Simon won the Invisible HOH is when things became different. Anne and Josh both finished the challenge 30 seconds after Simon, the closest finish we've ever had in the challenge. With Simon in power and nobody else knowing that fact, he should be totally fine to do whatever, right? He just keeps his win a secret, nominate 2 players outside the club or 2 threats within it. Well, much like Will M in the season before him, Simon's inexperience got the better of him, as he did the same thing as Will. Nominate 1 person inside his alliance and 1 person outside, those 2 being Anne and Sha-Anan. His reasoning for this was that Anne was being really suspicious, asking him to become part of a 3rd layer in the Quad K, which made him fairly sure that she had said that to several others. He also nominated Sha-Anan due to the club not trusting him, and then wanting to target Sha-Anan for several rounds at Anne's insistence. At the Power of Veto competition, Simon won the challenge, holding literally all of the power for the round. But yet again, his inexperience got the better of him, as he was worried that the club would be suspicious of him not saving Anne, so that's what he did. He then had to name a replacement nominee, choosing 1 power player to take the place of another, with Zach going up on the block. Fortunately for Zach's Nerdland Yeah alliance, Simon made a huge error in telling Zach that he was going to be nominated prior to him confirming it with me, which allowed Zach to both correctly and easily deduce the fact that Simon was the Invisible HOH. Zach then made possibly the most explosive move this game has seen, revealing to everyone with the screenshot that Simon was the HOH, a fact confirmed by Simon himself in general, much to Spencer's amusement, when Simon basically threatened anyone who happened to be working with Zach, saying that he was going after them. Roughly 2 minutes prior to this event, however, Anne had just thanked him profusely for saving her, followed by her immediately interrogating him when it was revealed that he had nominated her. Following Simon's apologies, a new alliance formed, originally between Bill, Josh, and Simon, although more people would be added over the coming rounds. This alliance went by many names, such as We No Longer Trust Anne, the Anti-Anne Alliance, A to the Power of 3, and simply
And as much as I would love to call it the latter, that joke would get really old really fast, so I'll just be calling it the AAA or the AAA. Soon after its formation, Simon and Bill were able to easily convince Rita and Seb to join, and the alliance now had 5 out of the 10 remaining players as members. The group decided that Sha-Anan was more valuable to them than Zach was, due to Bill telling them correctly that Sha-Anan had the same goal in mind of targeting Anne. With Sha-Anan having the locked votes to stay of Bill, Rita, and Josh, with Simon being unable to vote because he was the HOH, and Zach having the locked votes to stay of Anne, Ariel, and Spencer, it all came down to Seb, who despite being a member of the AAA, he didn't actually see the notifications that he was a member of the AAA, and didn't know they were targeting Zach. So, he made the decision that was best for his game. After talking with Zach, Seb realized that it made more sense strategically to keep him, due to the fact that Zach's comp abilities could be really helpful down the line. With that decision, Sha-Anan's fate was officially sealed, as he was voted out 4-3. Bringing an end to both the pre-jury and this half of the Big Brother finale video. So, hopefully you enjoyed that. Part 2 should be coming out about a week from today, and I'll have you know I am hard at work on it as I record this, so look forward to that, and look forward to Big Brother Season 3 coming out August 22nd. Until then, my name is Jonathan Swartz, and I am your host. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Swartz out.